No one touches my daughter when I'm not here, especially you." Victor Chen's voice was so cold the steam in the bathroom seemed to freeze. Nia Okoye stopped the shampoo bottle slipping slightly from her trembling hand as warm water dripped onto the marble floor. 3-year-old Aria, who had been giggling moments earlier, fell silent. In the doorway stood a tall man, rein still clinging to his white shirt, eyes sharp as blades. He had come home early from a meeting only to find the maid holding his daughter in the bathtub. Nia quickly wrapped a towel around Aria, shielding the child's small body. "She had a mild fever. I didn't hire you to play Dr. Victor," cut her off voice, hard and dismissive. "Your job is to clean, not touch my child." His polished shoes struck the tiles sharply as he crossed the room. Nia instinctively stepped back, but he was already pulling the little girl from her arms. Aria began to cry, frightened by the sudden tension. "I only wanted her to feel better," Nia said softly, gripping the towel tighter, her voice trembling yet firm. "You're fired," he said coldly, carrying his daughter away without another glance. The door closed, leaving behind the faint scent of baby shampoo and the sound of dripping water. Nia stared at her blurred reflection in the fogged mirror, wet, exhausted, humiliated, but not defeated. She had long been judged for her color and her place in the world, yet this time the wound ran deeper. She was being punished for kindness. Downstairs, old Mr. Tan, the butler who had served the Chen family for decades, watched silently as she folded her few belongings into a worn canvas bag. "You weren't wrong," he said quietly, his voice lined with sympathy. Nia gave a tired smile. "People like me rarely get to be right in their eyes. The child called you Mama Nia." "That's why he lost his temper," Mr. Tan murmured. Nia froze, her heart tightening. "She just needed to be held," she whispered. "Something Mr. Victor doesn't know how to do," Mr. Tan said, glancing toward the stairs. Upstairs, Victor sat in his study. Aria still trembling softly in his arms. He stroked her damp hair, guilt seeping through the cracks of his pride. In her sleep, the child murmured, "Nia." The single name cut through him like a blade. He stood abruptly, walked to the large window, and stared into the relentless rain. Outside, through the silver downpour, Nia's small figure was fading into the storm. Anger and guilt tangled in his chest until he could no longer tell them apart. He had lost his wife in a car accident 2 years ago, and had sworn that no one would ever come close enough to hurt his daughter again. But now, as he watched the maid disappear into the rain, he wasn't sure if he had been protecting his child or hiding from his own fear. Nia walked through the downpour without an umbrella. The rain soaked her curls, slid down her neck, and mixed with tears she didn't bother to wipe away. She crossed the slick pavement without looking back. Her mind drifted to her younger brother in Nairobi, feverish, calling her name before slipping away forever. She hadn't saved him, and the wound had never healed. Maybe that was why she couldn't walk away from any child in pain. Mr. Tan caught up to her near the gate, holding out an umbrella. "He'll need you again," he said softly. Nia accepted it, her eyes calm and steady. "I don't wait to be needed," she said. "If they come, I'll listen." She disappeared into the curtain of rain. Upstairs, Victor remained by the window, remembering the gentleness in her hands and the calm strength in her eyes. He didn't know she had once studied pediatric nursing, chosen for an international program before life tore it away. That secret now belonged only to her and the rain. Aria stirred again, whispering Mama Nia. Victor held her tiny hand, a hollow ache growing inside his chest. He realized he had just sent away the only person who had brought warmth back back into this cold, silent house. Beneath the train station awning, Nia stopped rain striking her shoulders. She looked up toward the glowing windows above, where the powerful man still stood watching. A faint smile touched her lips, not pride, but a quiet knowing. Sometimes destiny begins with misunderstanding, and those who believe they hold all the power are the first to bow before the kindness they once dismissed. That night, rain poured endlessly over Singapore's city lights, blurring through the glass. Victor Chen sat alone in his office, tie-loosened eyes fixed on the storm. The apartment was silent, except for the faint sound of Arya's weak breathing from the next room. He had fired Nia, yet the image of her kneeling by the bathtub, gently washing his daughter's hair, haunted him like a wound that refused to fade. He opened the security footage. Nia appeared testing the water, checking the temperature, wiping Arya's forehead with a warm towel. Every gesture was gentle and precise. He stared, then shut the screen off, fists clenched. His anger had vanished, replaced by heavy regret pressing against his chest. A knock broke the silence. Mr. Tan entered with a tray of tea. "She did nothing wrong, sir." Victor's voice was flat. "She touched my daughter without permission. Perhaps. But she did something you've forgotten how to do she loved." The words cut deep. Since Maria, his wife, died in a sailing accident, Victor had locked away his heart. Arya had become a responsibility, not joy. Now one woman's kindness had cracked the armor he built around himself. A faint whimper came from Arya's room. Victor rushed in. She lay curled up, skin-burning lips trembling. He fumbled for medicine, tried to feed her. "Drink, sweetheart." She turned away, crying softly. He called the doctor, no answer. The nurse line was busy. Rain lashed the windows as helplessness rose in him. Arya's eyes fluttered open. "Mama Nia," she whispered. Victor froze. The name pierced him like a blade. He dropped the spoon, heart twisting painfully. How long had it been since she'd called anyone Mama? He sat beside her bed, holding her tiny hand, realizing he had sent away the only person who made his daughter feel safe. Without hesitation, he grabbed his coat and keys. Rain struck his face as he left. His car sped through the wet streets, city lights streaking across the windshield. Near midnight, he stopped before an old HDB block in Kallang, climbed to the 4th floor and knocked. "Nia, it's me, Victor Chen." After a pause, the door opened. Nia stood there, hair messy, wrapped in a thin sweater. "What are you doing here? Arya's sick." "I don't know what to do." The tension in her eyes softened. "Give me 5 minutes." She slipped on sandals, grabbed a small medical bag, and followed him without another word. The car was silent, except for the rhythm of rain. When they arrived, Nia went straight upstairs. She checked Arya's temperature, wiped her forehead with a warm towel, and hummed softly, her voice deep and calm. Arya stirred, eyes opening slightly, a faint smile forming as her hand reached for Nia. "Nia, I'm here, sweetheart. Sleep now." Victor stood in the doorway, the tension in his chest easing. His daughter's peace had never come from wealth, but from the warmth beside her. "She'll be fine," Nia said softly, not looking at him. "She just needs to feel loved." Victor swallowed hard. "I was wrong." "You don't need to say it," she replied. "Sometimes people are so afraid of love, they think fear makes them right." She adjusted the blanket and wiped the last trace of sweat from the child's forehead. "I'll stay until her fever breaks." "Thank you." "Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you." He said nothing. Nia sat by the bed, and the lamp casting a soft glow on her tired but kind face. Victor, who once believed power was strength, now understood that compassion was what truly saves. Outside, the rain stopped. Inside, Arya slept peacefully. Victor watched the woman he once dismissed, now guarding his daughter's sleep. In that silence, he knew his apology had already been spoken, without words, only understanding. Dawn rose after the rain, soft light filling the room with warmth and the faint scent of medicine. Arya slept peacefully, her cheeks pink again, her breathing steady. Nia sat beside the bedhead, resting on her arm, too tired to notice she had fallen asleep. Victor stood in the doorway, quietly watching. The sight softened something inside him. The house that had long felt cold finally seemed alive again. When Arya stirred, Nia woke instantly. "Her fever's gone," she whispered. "She'll be fine. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have known what to do," Victor said softly. Nia looked tired but calm. "You can learn. No one is born knowing how to be a father." She stood to leave, but he stopped her. "Stay until morning just to be sure she doesn't relapse." Her eyes were steady. "I'm doing this for Arya, not for you." "I know," he said gently. "That's why I trust you." The lamp's glow brushed over her curls, and for a moment he thought of Maria, his late wife, though Nia was different. Maria had brought peace, but Nia brought life back into the house. When morning brightened, Arya opened her eyes and smiled weakly. "Nia, I'm here." "Where's Daddy? I'm right here," Victor said, sitting beside her. Arya clasped both their hands before falling back asleep. That small gesture filled him with calm. Later, Nia stepped out. Victor waited in the kitchen, the smell of coffee in the air. "Have some," he said. "You didn't rest at all." She took the cup, nodding slightly. "I should go before the others see me." "You don't have to hide," he replied. "I'm not ashamed of being helped." She looked up. "Men like you fear losing control. I don't want to be treated as an exception." "Maybe I need to change," he said quietly. "Last night I was helpless. You did what I couldn't." "Don't idealize me," she murmured. "I just did what was right, helping a child feel loved." The words struck deep. He looked at her and saw what he had lost faith in people. Then came small footsteps. Arya appeared, hair messy, feet bare. "Daddy, I'm hungry." Nia smiled. "What do you want to eat, pancakes?" Victor chuckled. "Stay and eat with us." Nia hesitated, but Arya tugged at her hand. "Please, Nia, eat with me." She sighed. "Just for today." Breakfast was simple but warm. Arya laughed, flour on her cheeks, and for the first time in years, the house was filled with joy. For a brief moment, Victor remembered what happiness felt like. After breakfast, Nia washed the dishes. As she prepared to leave, Victor handed her a small card. "Medical authorization," he said. "If there's an emergency, you can care for Arya." She froze. "You trust me, I'm afraid of many things," he said quietly, "but more afraid of my child growing up without love." Her eyes softened. "I'll do my best for Arya." "And for yourself," he added gently. Nia walked toward the door, but Arya ran after her, hugging her legs. "Nia, come back later, okay?" Nia knelt and kissed her forehead. "If I'm allowed, I will." "Promise, promise." The door closed, sunlight spilling through the hall. Victor watched from the window as Nia's figure faded into the light, yet he felt he had found a missing piece of himself. By noon, Mr. Tan entered with a smile. "The house has laughter again, sir." "It's not the house," Victor said quietly. "It's me." "Then keep it," Mr. Tan replied. Victor looked out at the bright city after the storm. He knew last night had healed more than a fever. It was the beginning of something greater, a chance to learn how to love again, starting with the woman he once dismissed. The morning after the rain, soft sunlight filtered into the apartment, casting a gentle glow on Arya's small face. The little girl's stirred eyes half closed, smiling, as she saw Nia folding the blanket. The air was fresh and still, holding the quiet promise of a new day. When Victor stepped out of his study, he paused at the doorway. He stood there silently watching the young woman sitting beside his daughter, both bathed in a warmth that felt almost sacred. "Is she better?" he asked softly. Nia nodded. "The fever's gone, but she still needs rest." Victor sat down, voice low. "I owe you a thank you." "That's not necessary," Nia replied gently. "I only did what anyone should do." Arya looked between them, her small voice breaking the silence. "Daddy, don't be mad at Nia anymore." The words caught Victor off guard. His jaw tightened, then softened. "Daddy was wrong," he said quietly. Nia said nothing, lowering her gaze as she continued feeding Arya, her expression calm, steady, and unresentful. After breakfast, Victor cleared his throat. "There's something I'd like to discuss." He took an envelope from a drawer and placed it on the table. "I want you to stay, not as a maid, but as Arya's caretaker. You'll have full authority when I'm away." Nia hesitated. "Aren't you afraid people will misunderstand?" "I am," Victor admitted. "But I'm more afraid of leaving my daughter with someone who lacks kindness." She looked at him and saw sincerity in the eyes that once held only distance. "If it's for Arya, I'll stay." "For Arya," he repeated softly. By noon, Arya was asleep in a room filled with sunlight. Nia sat by the window, reading a children's book, her curls glowing in the light. Victor stepped in quietly, pausing to watch. The house, once cold and lifeless, now breathed warmth again. "Thank you for staying," he said. Nia smiled faintly. "I stayed for the child, not for you." "I know," he replied, tone gentle. As evening approached, Nia prepared to leave. Victor walked her to the door. "Can you come earlier tomorrow? I want Arya to have a steady routine." 7:00, she said. "You're always on time," he smiled. "Old habit from my nursing days," she answered softly. Arya ran out and hugged her legs. "Nia, I like you so much." Nia bent down, kissing her forehead. "I like you too, sweetheart." Victor watched the emotion rising in his chest. When Nia stood, he said quietly, "You can call me Victor." She hesitated, then nodded. "All right, Victor." The door closed. He remained there, hearing his name linger in her voice, warm and close. That night, Victor sat with Mr. Tan in the living room. "Do you think I did the right thing?" he asked. "You're learning to trust again," Mr. Tan replied. "That woman brings Arya back to life. Maybe even you." Victor looked out at the city lights reflected on the water. "I just don't want to live like a shadow anymore." "Then don't," Mr. Tan said. "Hold on to what you found. Don't lose it again." Meanwhile, Nia sat on the train to Kallang, and the wind brushing past the fogged window. She thought of Arya's bright laughter that morning, and Victor's gaze no longer cold, but human. A small smile touched her lips. Beneath the old scars, one thing remained: her ability to love. For the first time in years, Nia felt the road ahead was not just work, but a new beginning where kindness could heal what fear once destroyed. She closed her eyes, letting the rhythm of the train carry her forward, unaware that in the quiet apartment behind her, a little girl whispered her name into the night. In the days that followed, Victor Chen's apartment transformed completely. Mornings were filled with Arya's laughter, afternoons carried the scent of baked sweets drifting from the kitchen, and nights no longer held their old, heavy silence. But the soft hum of lullabies sung in a gentle voice. Since Nia's return, the house had found its heartbeat again. Victor still worked as before, but something subtle had shifted. He came home earlier, lingered longer, and often found himself pausing at the doorway just to watch. Arya was eating well, sleeping deeply, no longer afraid of shadows or storms. Every time he looked, Naya was there, not intrusive, not commanding, simply present her touchlight, as air, her tone warm and sure. Her presence made the once cold apartment feel human alive. One quiet afternoon, Mr. Tan approached him in the study. "Sir, you should know there are rumors in the house." Victor looked up from his papers. "What rumors? They say Miss Nia is overstepping her place trying to win your favor." Victor's eyes darkened. "Who said that?" Marcia, the supervisor, upstairs. A few others followed. Mr. Tan hesitated. "They don't see what we see." Victor stayed silent, anger stirring not from insult, but from injustice. He knew too well how quickly a kind woman of color could be reduced to whispers and suspicion. That night, after Arya had fallen asleep, he called Nia into the kitchen. The light was soft, the air heavy with unsaid words. "You've heard about the rumors?" he asked. She nodded, calm as ever. "I'm used to them. There are always people who prefer to see wrong instead of understanding right." "I'll put a stop to it," he said firmly. "You don't have to," Nia replied. "They won't believe your defense. Only time will silence them." "But I can't stand watching good people trampled on," he argued. "You can't protect me from prejudice," she said gently. "But you can live in a way that gives them no reason to doubt." Her words struck deeper than he expected. She wasn't angry or afraid, only steady, a woman who had endured pain without letting it define her. The next morning, sunlight streamed across the marble floor as Victor gathered the staff in the main hall. His tone was firm, measured, and final. "From today, Nia is no longer a maid. She is Arya's official caretaker with full authority over her medical and personal needs. Anyone uncomfortable with that may leave." The room went silent. Marcia's face paled. Her eyes dropped to the floor. Mr. Tan gave a small nod of approval. No one else dared to speak. When the crowd dispersed, only Nia and Victor remained. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "I did," he replied. "So no one dares to disrespect you again." "You just made yourself a new target," she said. He smiled faintly. "I can handle that. People have talked about me my whole life." Nia's lips curved slightly. "It's the first time I've seen a man use power to protect someone, not to hide his mistakes." He met her eyes. "I'm done pretending to be strong," he admitted. That afternoon, the garden glowed under the pale sunlight. Arya played with her toys, laughter echoing softly through the trees. Nia sat nearby, reading Arya's head, resting peacefully against her shoulder. From a few steps away, Victor watched, his heart quiet and full. In that moment, he understood that peace wasn't found in money or power, but in moments as simple as this: sunlight, laughter, and the sight of two souls who made the world gentle again. As the day ended, Nia gathered her things. "Do you know what I'm thinking?" Victor asked as she turned to leave. "Another thank you," she teased softly. "No," he said. "An admission. You reminded me what family feels like." She paused, her expression tender. "Family isn't something to remember," she said. "It's something to protect." She walked away, her scent lingering in the quiet hall. Victor stood motionless, listening to the sound of Arya's laughter floating down the corridor. He knew then that he would never let anyone harm those two again. Inside him, something long buried stirred to life, a fragile human warmth that carried a name he could no longer silence in his heart: Nia Okoye. That morning, Victor was in a meeting when Mr. Tan entered, his face tense. "Sir, You should see this." On the phone screen was a headline, "Billionaire Victor Chen lets his maid raise his daughter. Trouble in the Chen family." Beneath it was a photo of Nia holding Arya's hand, and the angle making them look like mother and daughter. The room went silent. Victor stared at the title, then turned off the phone. "Who sent this to the press?" he asked. "Likely someone inside the house," Mr. Tan replied. "The news is spreading fast." Victor left the company immediately. When he got home, Nia was teaching Arya to paint in the living room. "Daddy," the little girl called out, but Victor didn't smile. He set the phone on the table. "They wrote about you." Nia glanced at the screen calmly. "I knew it would happen eventually." "You're not angry, I'm used to it. People fear what they don't understand." That night, after Arya was asleep, the doorbell rang. Mrs. Lillian Chen, Victor's mother, entered in a white coat, her eyes cold. "What have you done? The whole city is talking about us." "Mother, I only want Arya to be happy." By letting a maid run this household, Nia stood silently by the stairs. Lillian glanced her way, a smirk appearing. "You're quite clever. The papers are calling you the woman in Victor Chen's shadow." Nia replied evenly, "I'm only doing my job. What they write doesn't concern me." "Do you think a few kind acts can lift you up here?" "No," she said, "but kindness keeps me from bowing my head." Lillian paused and then turned to her son. "If you keep her, don't expect me to protect your position." Victor met her gaze. "I don't need that title if it costs me my daughter." Lillian hesitated, then left her heels echoing sharply down the hall. When she was gone, only silence filled the room. "I'm sorry," Victor said quietly. "My mother doesn't understand." "She doesn't have to," Nia replied. "You just need to stand by what you believe. You're not angry, I've faced worse judgments. But if you really believe in me, don't hide. Let them see I exist." Her words struck him hard. He realized he had been the one hiding from scrutiny. "You're right," he admitted. "I've lived behind my image too long." The next morning, he called the communications team. "Prepare a statement. I want Nia's role made public." She overheard, alarmed. "Don't. The press will come after you." "Let them," he said. "At least they'll see the truth." 3 days later, an exclusive headline appeared, "Victor Chen, the woman who helped me save my family." He didn't speak of romance, only praised Nia's compassion and integrity. The public was divided, some were moved, others mocked. But every morning, Arya still laughed and called Nia with joy. That night, Victor stepped into the garden. Nia was reading to Arya, and when the child drifted to sleep, he asked softly, "Do you regret staying?" "No," she said. "If it means a child grows up surrounded by love, then there's nothing to regret." "Thank you." "Don't thank me. I don't need pity, only respect." Victor's voice steadied. "From now on, whoever targets you targets me." Nia smiled faintly, her eyes calm but deep. "You have no idea how many people you've just challenged." "Then let them come," he said. The night breeze carried the scent of jasmine. Inside, Arya stirred and murmured, "Daddy, Nia." They both looked toward the softly lit window. No words were needed. They knew that from now on they were no longer standing apart, but together, ready to protect the only thing that truly mattered, a family that had just begun to live again. 3 days after the interview, the public buzz had begun to fade, but tension was brewing inside the Chen family. That afternoon, while Victor was at the office reviewing contracts, his phone rang. His mother's voice came sharp and commanding. "Tonight, I'm coming to see you and that woman." Victor paused, sensing the storm behind her words. "All right," he said evenly. By the time her car stopped at the gate, the city was wrapped in twilight. Inside, Nia sat on the rug with Arya helping her sound out words from a picture book. The room glowed with soft yellow light and the quiet rhythm of a home at peace. The tranquility broke when Lillian Chen stepped through the door. Tall, elegant, wrapped in a white coat, she carried an aura of authority that filled the room like frost. "So you're the woman who made this family the talk of Singapore," she said icily. Nia rose polite, yet composed. "I'm just doing my job, ma'am." "Your job?" Lillian's tone sharpened. "You've made this child forget her mother." Arya's little voice broke in trembling but brave. "I haven't forgotten, Mommy. I just love Naya too." The words hung in the air like a fragile bell. Lillian turned sharply toward her son. "You hear that she's replaced Maria in your child's heart?" Mother Victor said calmly, "No one can replace Maria." Nia only helped our daughter smile again. "Smiles don't restore dignity," Lillian snapped, turning back to Nia. "Do you think kindness makes you equal to the Chen family? I don't need to be equal." Nia said quietly, but firmly, "I only want to be treated as a person." Lillian laughed, bitter and cold. "A person. You're exploiting pity and confusion." "No," Nia replied, her eyes bright. "I know what loss feels like, so I choose love over fear." For a long moment, silence ruled the room. Victor looked at her admiration, softening the tension in his face. His mother saw it, and her expression hardened further. "If you don't dismiss her, the board will question your leadership. They'll say you've lost control." Victor's voice stayed calm, but resolute. "Then let them question it. I won't run my home by their judgment." Lillian stood still, fury restrained behind poise. "You'll regret this, Victor," she said before turning away. Her heels struck the marble with cold precision until the door shut behind her. The silence that followed was deep. Victor let out a weary breath. "You shouldn't have to endure that." "I'm used to it," Nia said softly. "She's protecting what she believes in. So am I." "And what is that, Arya?" she replied simply. The single word silenced him. It carried truth, not defiance, and it humbled him more than any argument could. That night, Nia read to Arya until the child's eyes fluttered shut, her small hand resting over Nia's. Her voice was low and soothing, carrying the warmth of someone who knew how to heal. From the doorway, Victor watched them, feeling something fragile and unfamiliar peace. When Nia stepped out, he spoke quietly. "My mother won't stop. She sees you as a threat. I don't want conflict," Nia said, "but I won't leave either. If I go, Arya will think love is something that disappears when people disapprove." He met her gaze, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "You don't realize how strong you are." "I'm not strong," she said, smiling faintly. "I've just stopped being afraid." The next morning, sunlight poured through the windows. Arya ran into the kitchen, hair messy from sleep. "Daddy, where's Nia?" Victor smiled. "Over there making breakfast for you." The little girl cheered, darting toward the counter as Nia turned with a grin. Laughter filled the house like music. Mr. Tan entered quietly, watching the scene. "Sir," he said softly, "you've just won a battle without fighting. When people see you choose compassion over power, their voices fade." Victor nodded eyes, following the two figures in the kitchen. "I didn't win anything. I just remembered how to be a father." Outside, the sky stretched clear and bright. From the balcony above, Arya's laughter echoed. "Daddy, come up here," she called. Victor stepped out, looking up to see his daughter glowing in the sunlight, her hair dancing in the wind. Beside her stood Nia, serene, her eyes reflecting the morning light. In that quiet moment, Victor understood what truly mattered, neither reputation nor wealth, but the two souls who had brought his home back to life. And for them, he knew he would stand against the world. 3 days later, the Chen household seemed calm, but Victor knew it was only the silence before the storm. Rumors about him and Nia hadn't faded. They had sharpened, spreading from gossip to boardroom concern. That morning, his phone rang. "We need to meet," said the executive chairman. "This image problem is hurting investor confidence." "I'll be there," Victor replied. The boardroom on the 40th floor gleamed with glass and steel. 12 directors sat around the table, their faces hard. Mr. Albright, the oldest, spoke first. "Victor, you've been a strong leader, but this issue with the woman is damaging our reputation." "She has a name," Victor said evenly. "Nia." Murmurs spread. Albright frowned. "A maid seen with your daughter photographed leaving your home? It sends the wrong message. A leader must control himself." Victor leaned back. "A leader, maybe. But a father doesn't have to." The room went still. Linda Cho, the CFO, leaned forward. "Then what's your plan? Clarify the relationship or distance yourself?" Victor's gaze swept the room. "Neither. I'm not managing this. I'm choosing to do what's right. I won't apologize for letting a good woman care for my child. That isn't scandal, it's decency." Albright's tone hardened. "You're risking the company for sentiment. Investors see weakness." Victor's reply was calm but firm. "If a company can fall because of one act of kindness, maybe it deserves to." Silence fell. He placed a folder on the table. "As of today, I'm stepping back. The COO will take over. I'll remain as founder, not director." Linda stared. "You're giving up power?" "Not giving up," Victor said quietly. "Choosing freedom." When the meeting ended, he walked into the marble lobby. Mr. Tan was waiting. "You know they won't let this go." "I know," Victor said with a faint smile. "But for once, I'm living by my standards, not theirs." That afternoon, he returned home early. The sun hung low, spilling gold across the garden. Nia and Araya were planting flowers, their hands covered in soil. Daddy Arya shouted, "These will bloom purple." Victor crouched beside her, smiling. "I believe you, sweetheart." He glanced at Nia. "Today I made the board call me crazy." She raised an eyebrow. "You quit?" "No. I just stopped being afraid." Nia smiled. Maybe that's the first choice that truly makes Arya happy. As dusk fell, they sat on the porch. The air smelled of jasmine. "Do you ever regret staying?" Victor asked. "Never," Nia said softly. "But sometimes I worry you'll grow tired of fighting." He chuckled. "I've faced markets and storms. Rumors are nothing compared to losing what matters." She turned to him. "You're not the man I first met." Who was he? Cold? Afraid to feel? Now you know what warmth is." Victor's voice softened. "Thank you for reminding me. I still have a heart." The next morning, Arya's shout rang through the house. "Daddy, the flowers bloomed." Victor followed her outside. Under the sunlight, tiny purple blossoms swayed in the breeze. Arya laughed, hands muddy, while Nia stood nearby, her curls shining. Victor watched silently, the woman, the child, the peace he once thought impossible. What he felt wasn't victory or pride, but quiet gratitude. From the terrace, Mr. Tan looked on. He had seen Victor chained by power and grief, but now for the first time that man stood free, not through wealth or control, but through love, humility, and the courage to begin again. 3 days after the board meeting, news of Victor's resignation spread quickly through the financial world. The media called him the billionaire who lost his mind for a maid, but Victor no longer cared. All that mattered was Araya's laughter each morning and that Nia was still there. That evening, as they ate dinner, the doorbell rang. Mr. Tan entered, his face serious. "Sir, you have a visitor," a woman claiming to be Nia's mother. The room went silent. Nia set down her spoon, her heart tightening. "My mother." "Yes," Mr. Tan said. "She's waiting outside." Nia stepped into the cool night air. By the gate stood a woman with streaks of gray in her hair, her face worn by time. "Hello, Nia," she said softly. Mother Nia whispered. It had been nearly 10 years since they'd last met. Her mother's voice trembled. "I saw you in the papers. I almost didn't recognize you." "I've changed," Nia said gently, "but I haven't forgotten." "I didn't come to blame you," her mother said. "I only wanted to know if you're happy." Victor stood a few steps behind, silent. The woman looked at him. "You're the man they wrote about?" "Yes," Victor replied calmly. "And most of it isn't true." She nodded faintly, then turned to her daughter. "You've chosen to stay here." "I've chosen to live," Nia said softly. "For the first time I feel I belong." Her mother's eyes glistened. "I couldn't protect you before, but if this place gives you peace, I can rest." Nia took her hand. "I forgave everything long ago." After she left, Victor stood beside her. "Are you all right?" "I am," she said quietly. "I didn't think she'd ever come." "She loves you," he said gently. "Every mother does." Nia looked at him, her eyes wet. "You speak like someone who's lost." He hesitated, then said softly, "I lost Maria. But because of you, Aria hasn't lost her smile. Maybe that's how Maria still stays with us." Later that night, when Aria was asleep, Nia stepped into the garden. Moonlight glowed over rows of purple flowers. She brushed a petal gently, feeling its warmth. Behind her, quiet footsteps approached. Victor appeared holding 2 cups of tea. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "No," she said. "Everything today feels too real." "Only what's real is worth living," he said. "I used to think life was about success, but now I know it's about moments." They sat together beneath a tree, their shadows crossing in the silver light. "Aren't you afraid," Nia asked softly, "of giving up everything for something uncertain?" "Of course," he said. "But I'm more afraid of losing what truly matters." "And what's that, family?" Nia smiled faintly. "I never thought anyone would call me part of a family." "Maybe no one saw you clearly before," he said quietly. "But I do." The air stilled, filled only with the sound of crickets. "If Maria were still alive," Nia asked, "do you think we'd be here like this?" Victor looked up at the stars. "If she were, I'd still be grateful to you. No one else could have taught me how to love again except you." The wind carried the scent of jasmine. Nia's voice was barely a whisper. "You don't have to say that." "I'm not saying it for forgiveness," he replied. "I'm saying it because you deserve love, not pity, but the kind that makes others better." The moonlight wrapped the garden in peace. And in that stillness, 2 broken souls understood the past, no longer owned them. What remained was the present and the quiet warmth of being together in a home, once cold, now alive with love. The next morning, the house was full of joy. Aria ran around the living room laughing, holding a drawing of 3 figures herself, Victor and Nia. Beneath it were 2 words written in her uneven handwriting, "My family." Nia paused, her voice trembling. "It's beautiful, sweetheart." Aria grinned. "Daddy said we're having a party." Victor came from the kitchen, smiling. A small celebration to thank those who believed in us. That evening, the house glowed with warm light. Close friends, colleagues, and Mr. Tan gathered together. The air was kind but curious. Nia wore a simple olive green dress, her hair neatly tied, her face calm. Guests greeted her politely, though some eyes still held quiet judgment. During the party, Linda Cho, the finance director, approached her. "You must be Nia. I saw your interview. You handled everything so gracefully." Nia smiled. "I only did what felt right." Linda nodded. "You've changed, Victor. I never thought he knew how to smile." Victor appeared, raising his glass. "Thank you for coming. Tonight isn't about me. It's about celebrating the person who brought life back into this home." His eyes found Nia, her. The room went silent before applause filled the space. Nia blushed. "I didn't do anything special." "You gave me back what I'd lost," Victor said softly. Warmth. The mood softened. Arya rushed in, grabbing Nia's hand. "Nia is my home," she declared. Laughter rippled through the room. Nia bent down, kissed the little girl's hair, her heart trembling beneath the stares. When the guests left, Linda smiled at Victor. "You're walking a strange path, but maybe it's the right one." He replied, "For once, I don't need to be right, only honest." Later that night, Nia cleared the table, golden light reflecting on the wood. Victor came beside her. "Thank you for staying despite the whispers," he said. She smiled faintly. "I've survived worse than gossip." "Still, I'm afraid," he admitted. "Afraid one day you'll grow tired and leave." "I'm not going anywhere," she said. "As long as you keep your promise." "What promise? Not to turn kindness into a burden." He laughed softly. "I promise." They stepped into the garden. The crescent moon hung high, glowing over the purple flowers. Arya was asleep, and only the hum of insects filled the air. "Do you think we met by chance?" Victor asked. "No," Nia replied gently. "I think it was destiny, not the romantic kind. Just two broken people who met to learn how to live again." He looked at her for a long moment. "You always say things that make me believe." "Because you need to believe," she said, smiling, "and I need to be believed in." A breeze lifted her hair. Victor reached out and tucked a strand behind her ear. The gesture froze them both. No words, just a still second when the invisible bond between them tightened. "Tomorrow I'll take Arya to the beach," he said softly. "Come with us." "Aren't you afraid someone will take photos? I used to be," he said. "Not anymore. Let them see what they want. We know what it means." Nia smiled. "Then tomorrow is a new beginning." "No," Victor said. "Tomorrow continues what began in the day you walked into this house." The sea breeze drifted through the open door, carrying the scent of salt. On the steps they sat side by side under the moonlight, the faint sound of waves, wrapping the night in calm. For the first time, the world seemed still giving them room to breathe, quiet, real, and together. The morning at Palo Cove was bright and calm, a beginning that felt new. Waves rolled softly over the sand, and the wind carried the scent of salt. Arya ran ahead, her dress fluttering as she laughed. "Daddy, Nia, look at me." Victor and Nia followed behind at a slow pace. "It's been a long time since I've seen her this happy," he said quietly. "Children don't need much," Nia replied, her eyes on the little girl. "Just someone who truly stays." Victor looked at her, sunlight catching in his eyes. "You do that. You make things feel real." Arya came running back, holding a seashell. "It's a gift." Nia smiled, taking it. "It's beautiful, thank you." Victor patted his daughter's head. "Let's keep it as a promise." They sat on the sand, listening to the waves. "Have you ever thought of staying?" he asked. "Staying in that house with Arya with me?" Nia smiled faintly. "I used to think I didn't belong anywhere. But now I think I've found a place." Victor stared at the sea. After Maria died, I stopped trusting people. I shut down until you came. You didn't ask for anything. You just brought kindness. Kindness doesn't heal wounds, she said softly. No, he replied, but it makes people want to live again. The ocean filled the silence between them. Araya ran in circles laughing. Do you think Maria would be angry? Nia asked. Victor shook his head. She told me once that if I found happiness again, she'd smile. I think she's smiling now. Nia looked at her hands, the seashell warm in her palm. She felt heat rise in her chest when Victor's fingers brushed hers. Neither spoke. By noon, Arya had fallen asleep on the sand. Victor covered her with his coat and sat beside Nia. I never had a real family, she whispered. But when I see you two, I think this is what it feels like. He turned to her. Then stay. Not as an employee, as a part of it. She hesitated. Do you know what you're saying? I do, he said firmly. I don't want to be just the man you work for. I want to walk beside you, whatever comes next. Nia's breath trembled. You're making things complicated. Maybe he said gently, but the truth usually is. She met his eyes shining. And if I say I'm afraid, then I'll wait. I won't lose something precious by rushing. A breeze passed. Arya stirred, still clutching the shell. Nia looked at her, then at Victor. You taught me to trust again. He smiled. And you taught me to believe again. Later on the drive home, Arya hummed in the back seat, while Nia watched the golden sunset through the window. Victor drove quietly, his heart light. He knew everything had changed. There were no roles left, only a bond that felt like family. When the car stopped at the gate, Araya woke, hugging her shell. This is our home, right? Daddy Victor looked at Nia. She nodded gently. That's right, sweetheart. This is our home. The sky deepened into violet lights, glowed softly in the house. And beneath the summer breeze, the three of them stepped inside, not burdened by the past, but walking into a quiet, new beginning together. A week after the trip to the beach, the Chen house was full of life. Arya ate well, slept soundly, and every morning she ran through the hallways calling for Nia. Victor laughed more, answered fewer calls, and thought less about meetings. But Nia knew there were still eyes outside, waiting for them to fall. One morning, Victor received an invitation from the talk show Morning View. We want to hear the real story, the producer said. He replied, only if she agrees. Nia hesitated. Television will magnify everything. Then let them magnify the truth, Victor said. 2 days later, the crew arrived. The living room glowed under soft, golden lights. Arya was taken to the garden by Mr. Tan, while Nia sat quietly off camera. When the cameras started rolling, the host asked Mr. Chen, "You stepped down from your position because of a woman. Aren't you afraid people will see that as weakness?" Victor looked straight into the lens, his voice calm. Weakness is when you're afraid to love. I'm not protecting a maid. I'm protecting a good person. The host paused. What did she change in you? Victor answered. She taught me how to be a father. She taught me that kindness is also strength. In the corner, Nia listened, her heart trembling. For the first time, she felt seen with respect. That night, the interview aired nationwide. Comments flooded in. A man who admits his faults is a strong man. That woman brought warmth back to his home. Victor set his phone aside and smiled. You see, Nia replied softly. I see Arya sleeping peacefully. They both laughed, relieved. A few days later, Nia received an invitation to speak at the Women Rise conference. She shook her head. I'm no role model. That's exactly why they need you, Victor said. On the day of the conference, Nia stood before hundreds of people, no notes in hand, speaking from her heart. I once thought I was born to clean up what others left behind. But a little girl taught me that kindness, even the smallest kind, has a voice. It isn't loud, but if we hold on to it, it will never fade. The room was silent, then everyone rose in applause. From the front row, Arya held up a handmade sign that read, Mama Nia. That evening, they had dinner in the garden. Arya chattered about school, Victor poured tea, and Nia looked at them both. I think I've found where I belong, she said softly. You didn't find it? Victor replied, smiling. You created it. As night fell, Victor said, tomorrow I'm signing the final papers to transfer company control. I want to spend more time with my family. Are you sure? Nia asked. More certain than anything. Arya leaned against Nia's shoulder, murmuring, Our house smells like Nia. Nia laughed, hugging her close. Victor watched them, knowing he had chosen right not to step back, but to come home. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the curtains. Victor signed the documents without hesitation and sent them off. When he stepped into the garden, Arya was watering flowers while Nia shaded her from the sun. It's done, he said. From now on, I'll be home more often. Nia smiled. Sometimes staying is the bravest choice. That afternoon, Mr. Tan helped them hang a new photo in the living room. 3 people, 3 smiles. Nia stared at it for a long moment.